Hey guys, what's going on? It's your favourite motorsport manager here, Sport the Aussie, doing the F1 mod challenge with Racing Engineering. Our two drivers, Charles Leclerc and Mick Schumacher, competing for those front row grid positions in that last race where Charles Leclerc picked up his first win. If you're liking the series thus far, please subscribe and give this video a thumbs up, guys, because we are going to be doing a game giveaway shortly, or soon enough, or at least announce a game giveaway competition. And the Formula 1 season starts this Sunday in Australia, which is my home country. Absolutely love it here. I love it when F1 season starts. I also love the fact that it's probably the only race, other than Singapore, that I can actually watch that has our, works in our time zone. Maybe Japan as well. But every other race is usually like 2, 3, 4 a.m. It's absolutely nuts. But we just come off a big victory in our first race. Charles Leclerc says that was flipping awesome. Race winner gets 15 plus morale. But one thing that we needed to do is we need to sign up a third tier driver as our driver reserve, because the problem is, I don't so much believe in having a third tier driver unless one of your front two guys have an accident and then, one of their traits goes down massively, like fitness, or they're injured. But you can also get a pay driver status, which allows you to receive money for the fact that they do the practice sessions. And one of the first guys, as you just saw, one of the first guys I just saw on the unemployment line is Antonio Fiuco. I'm probably pronounced that completely incorrect. I believe that's, yes, it is Italian. But he's a narcissist. He's trialing out for modeling. So he has a lot of good things going for him. Markability 74% plus. Paid driver 940 Gs. If he does practice, he gets 50%. So as long as we keep his fees below, what's 50% of that? 470. Yeah, that's correct, 470,000. That means we'll be making money. Not to mention, his feedback is 17, which is great, because when you're doing the practice sessions, the more feedback they have, the faster you get those additional driving traits, like practice knowledge traits. So that's good that he has 17, whereas, if we compare him to Charles Leclerc, who's got 12, and also Mick Schumacher, who also has 16, so he's beneficial there on both drivers. And that means that Charles Leclerc, who's also 4 stars, has better traits in everywhere else bar that area. Like, for example, braking. Braking's 15. Cornering. His smoothness is up there. So is his consistency and adaptability. Fitness is a little bit low. They're about par on par with each other, to be honest. The biggest differences are the feedback and the smoothness to a degree. So he also has a easy on fuel, which means he burns fuel at a much slower rate. But let's approach this driver. Let's start negotiations. He is unemployed. He'd prefer a long contract. I'd prefer him to have a long contract as well. His status isn't too important, so we'll put him in reserve driver just for now. Wages aren't so important to him. We need to keep him below that rate. What's his max rate? Wow. Let's see if we can just offer him 369. Let's see if we can just offer him 300,000 and just see what happens there. Let's get him a bit of a nice penny, 375,000. Bonus isn't too great, so let's not offer him them for now. He probably will reject it first go, but we'll see how we go from there. Our engine is just about to be built, so that's good. We must respond to an interview. Let's respond. Use team orders in the race, which is what we did. We had to use team orders, and the whole team orders was to allow Charles Leclerc through from Mick Schumacher, which is something that the fans are not particularly clear on. What do you have to say to them? Team orders are a fact of life, so they're going to have to suck it up. Look, that's what I agree as well. Markability. Wow, what just went up? His morale went up. No, Mick Schumacher's went down. Wow, that just happened so fast I didn't even see it. That's something new in this new patch that we can't see. So the team markability went up from 53% to 58%. His morale went down by 10%. Okay. So that was actually pretty cool to see that. So that's what we wanted, because we can get his morale back up to 100% without that much of a drama. So that's good for us. And I like how they've got the major events, the stuff that you have to reply to. So Lewis Hamilton, rejects the contract. We don't need him anyway, guys. It's not that big of a drama. So we've just designed one of our new engines. We are going to get that underway. Let's see if we can fit another one. What do we want to do next? What are we going to do next? If we have a look, we're now 6th best for engine, 7th best for brakes. Front wing is 6th. Suspension is a little bit rickety at 9th. And 5th for rear wing. What are we driving next to? Now, we're probably not going to have any components ready by the time of the next race, unless it's brakes or the rear wing. But let's have a look what we can get ready. Brakes or rear wing. brakes is crucial, and they're crucial for the next race. So let's do brakes. That's how we work that out. Now we can do a risky component, which is what I love to do because I think we risk it for the biscuit every time and it works out in our favor. So it's going to be 4 days before the race. Not much turnover time, improved components. Still, they're working on fixing the last cars because the cars were completely vamoosed. Remember, Schumacher had crashed, which means it takes a very long time for them to fix any of the components. And there we go. We're now in a position where we can start to improve on our different areas. So let's start to get the engine going, as well as fixing it as much as we possibly can. Everything onto reliability, because reliability trumps performance in my opinion. If you're not finishing races, there's no point leading it, right? If you're not going to finish. So again, I'm going to stack one car over the other. And that's been my tactic pretty much all along. I strongly believe as long as you get one car up there, at the moment we're coming first in the entire championship just because the other cars weren't able to finish. We're actually coming first tied because it looks like Ricciardo and Verstappen are tied first for the championship. They're 15 and 10 points respectively, so it is a team championship, but if we can keep scoring well with at least one car rather than both, we're doing God's work to some degree. So 60%, 58%. Let's just focus on those components because those ones are the lowest ones for now. Get the ball rolling a little bit. And we will fit the components a little bit closer. Again, I'm going to probably fit Mickey's birthday. Let's have a look. What does he want? It's Mick's birthday. Should we get him a nice present? It's very touching. No, I don't believe in throwing away money like that. Alright, so target is 7th or above. We've got the driver knowledge bonus traits, level 3 for qualifying and for the soft tire tread. Super overtake mode for Charles Leclerc. One thing I'm going to say is for the first like minute and a half, it's going to be dry. It's going to be a dry track. So if we send out Schumacher and Leclerc out the first second, don't even try to get the tire temperature and perfect down. Just send them out, push their engine as much as they possibly can. We might be able to sneak a quick lap in there. Boom, just like that. Go straight out. Don't even muck around. Bang. Alright, and what we want to do is we're going to put them into complete overtake mode because we want them to get around before the rain starts because it looks like it's going to rain all session so far. So go all the way up, speed up. We're not going to try to bring them down because, you know, the difference between getting them in the right mode and getting them out and doing a hot lap in the right weather is such a big difference that it would be optimizing if we could just get them to start their lap. Leclerc is out ahead of Schumacher, so I don't think Leclerc is going to hold up Schumacher at all when doing this lap. The track is still dry. It's going to start to drizzle any second now, but we should be able to get our quick lap out just before it starts to really bucket down. What's everyone else doing? Everyone else is out in the soft tires as well. There we go. Fastest first sector, what goes by Leclerc. Habsburg is just a little bit faster. Bottas has gone even faster. So it looks like everyone's been able to catch up. But guess what? Their lap finishes when the track is a little bit more damper than everyone else. So we've got first and second off the first go. A lot of other people have to complete their laps. Habsburg finishes. He's 1.1 second down. Bottas, Hulkenberg, Ericsson. So we've been able to complete our lap with the least amount of rain out in the circuit, which means we might have secured first and second. Looks like it's going to start to dry out at about that 8-minute mark that we couldn't see before, but that's interesting to note, so that's something we're going to have to consider. We might just have to wait until that weather goes down. One thing I do want to check is how's Leclerc's setup. It's at 98%. I don't want to tinker with that anymore. It's probably not worth it. And what we want to do is, if it looks like it's going to be dry out, we could possibly get 2 more hot laps out in this drier weather. But it's a shame because we would have had a front row for race engineering, which would have been a first for us in the Formula 1 championship. So far it's Habsburg, Bottas, Hulkenberg, Ericsson, Rosberg, Perez, Paulo, Massa, Ricciardo, Giovinazzi, Van Dorn, Magnussen, Vettel, Verstappen, Sainz, Alonso, Palmer, and De Resta. Alrighty, so much like the rest of the field, everyone has just come out to do a hot lap. As you can see, the rest of the field is just pouring out here. They're all over the place. Just like a bit of a trail of trains coming in and out. But we really want to focus on trying to get Charles Leclerc and also Schumacher into the green zone. So I'm going to pull them down right now. I did Schumacher a little bit earlier than Leclerc, and that's because this is a much shorter track. It's about 1 minute and 10 seconds long. We also want to try to get a bit of a gap in from the cars just in front of us. So this might just work out in our favor. It looks like it's starting to do that. And I'm just doing a quickie pause. A cheeky pause, I should say, not a quickie pause. What the hell? Perfect, perfect. And we're going to get Schumacher back up into that green zone. He's about to start his lap. Perfect for tyre temp, cold for brake temp. Much better than what the auto mode would usually do. But let's follow their hot lap at the moment. Charles Leclerc is going to kick it off. He doesn't have any traffic in his immediate vicinity. There are 2 cars just ahead of him, but I don't think he should be able to catch them. Ricciardo's just posted the fastest first sector so far. Leclerc now doing his own times out there. He's got super overtake mode. He's on a fresh set of rubber, because the more fresh the set of rubber, the faster you generally go. And let's see if he's able to improve. He goes much faster, a little bit faster than his original time, but it's not actually the fastest car on the circuit out there at the moment. Schumacher is also 0.246 of a second down from Leclerc's original time, but it looks like Habsburg and Rosberg might be able to. Yes, they do. Ricciardo goes first position, so he's been able to snatch pole position off us. Schumacher is going to be coming through now with Leclerc. Can he improve on his time? He goes up. First position, back in the pole. Schumacher goes 6th. He goes back to 7th. Habsburg cannot get over Leclerc, but it looks like Rosberg just snatches pole in the last second of qualifying. Are there any more cars to do their in-laps? No, that's it. So our grid for today is going to be Rosberg, Leclerc, Habsburg, Ricciardo, Verstappen, Bottas, Vettel, Sainz, Van Dorn. Schumacher all the way back in 10th position, so he got caught out a little bit out in that 3rd sector. He went down quite significantly. Alonso, Paulo de Resta, Hulkenberg, Ericsson, Perez, Nasser, Giovinazzi, Magnussen, and Palmer. So that's pretty unfortunate for our drivers, but for Schumacher, I should say. For Leclerc, it's actually really good. He's you know, 0.8 of a second faster. Looks like everyone's starting to get in the grid. One thing I will note is the cars, the actual car models look a lot better than they originally did when the game was first released. A little bit of a tweak here or there, and it looks like the guys at the Motorsport engineering team are really taking a great interest in this game and trying to make it their own. One thing I will note, last race, how many crashes were there? There were like 5 different crashes all over the place. So what are we going to do for tyre strategy? It doesn't look like it's going to rain. I'm going to get Leclerc to go out in the super soft set of tyres, and I'm going to get him to go into super overtake mode. I want him to conserve a little bit of fuel, and then we're going to be able to push a little bit later on in this race. But super soft tyres, not so much. Race trim, yes, that's the 2 things that we want. But for Schumacher, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm actually going to get him to start in the medium compound tyres. It's a 32-lap race. It's not a short race by any means. He's got 2 sets of soft tyres he can use. But I want him to get the medium tyres out there to try to overcut the other cars. I'm going to get Leclerc to do the complete opposite, go out in super soft tyres. He's got the bonus for those sets of tyres. Driver strategy, let's go into super overtake mode straight off the grid. See if we can make any spots. 7th or above is our target. And we're going to be racing for position here straight at Suzuka. One of my favourite circuits, Leclerc on that 2nd row. Can he get into first position in the first corner? Or will he get some more wheel spin like he did last time? It's a pretty standard start for him so far, but Schumacher's already up in the 7th position, so Schumacher has been able to leapfrog. He's now into 8th. Leclerc's been back passed by one of the, yes, Mercedes. Habsburg then leapfrogs through back in that position because he had the inside line, but Schumacher is in 8th, so Schumacher's been able to make a couple of places. Everyone's starting to push straight from the get-go, except for Habsburg. He's back in a more conservative mode, and I think that's to hold everyone else up, while Rosberg then pushes away from the rest of the field. So we want to get by him as soon as we possibly can without overheating the tyres. We're under a little bit of a threat from Ricciardo. Ricciardo's now going on the inside of this hairpin at the bottom of the track here, but he can't get through on us, and Leclerc holds that position. Leclerc from Monaco, Habsburg from Austria. Schumacher now drops back into 10th position. So he's on the medium set of tyres. He's in front of Van Dorn, who's on the super softs, and Alonso. Well, he's competing with Alonso, who's just ahead of him. So it's good from him so far. And Habsburg's just he's in a much more conservative position. We want to start to do that as well. Go back into high mode. We want to keep up this race pace, but we don't want to completely dig these tyres. Verstappen has just been passed by 9th place, who's currently our guy, Schumacher. He's on the tail of Vettel. He's going to be catching up to him. And there are the 2 McLaren cars. Alonso and Vettel back to back, probably the best drivers in the paddock so far, but Leclerc's got that 3rd position down packed. He's now under, wow, what was that? That was another crash. Did you just see that? Carl Sainz went straight through, and he's brought out a virtual safety car, so there's no point pitting just yet. But what had happened was, he actually, no, we're gonna ignore that. There's no point coming by. So Leclerc actually got passed by Sainz and Ricciardo while there was a crash. Does that mean Ricciardo's car has an injury, has a park condition that's failed? No, he doesn't. I thought he might have had some sort of a... We saw Carl Sainz go straight up hit him in the rear quarter, but he's been lucky to escape with no damage. So Sainz goes straight out. We're going to have the virtual safety cars in for another 4 seconds. So we want to go back into neutral while this race kicks off to make sure we're going to be in a competitive spot. We might actually go into overtake mode for both cars. I don't want them to get leapfrog at the start. Looks like Verstappen was really keen to get a move on, and yes, he goes straight through. So he took advantage of that virtual safety car just dropping off at the right time for him. He's going to get Leclerc back into medium mode. Does he have anyone? Is he under threat? Looks like Schumacher's under a lot of threat, so we might just get him to go back into overtake mode. He's back into 11th place now. He's dropped a few spots. That's unfortunate. But as for Leclerc, he's got a nice position there in front of Bottas. As soon as he's under threat from Bottas, the first thing I'm going to do is push his engine mode back into high. And he's under a little bit of threat now, so go back into high mode. Now, we should be able to hold that gap. The Williams car might be a little bit better than the race engineering car, but the driver quality, Leclerc seems to have it his own way, and he's able to keep up that spot. As to Schumacher, he's currently holding down in 11th in overtake mode. He's got negative fuel, and we're not gonna get overlapped. The cars are that much more synchronized with the front pack that I don't believe we are going to get lapped as much as we did last year's season, which was technically correct. But I think a lot more car crashes are happening now with the new patch, so I think a lot of the packs are going to be, brought back together. So we've got our 4th place Leclerc, who's still on the threat from Bottas. He's in high mode. He's got 0.5 fuel negative that we're going to have to negotiate by the end of the race. That's for Schumacher, who's down to 0.6. And I think Leclerc, given the fact that he's always under threat now, so let's go back into super overtake mode. I don't want to give up that track position. I don't want to hand it over to Bottas for no reason. There's another virtual safety car because Kevin Magnussen has now crashed. So that wouldn't have been such a bad time to do a quick stop, and we've caught that out. But we've just missed it, 60 seconds. That's a long time. So the whole reason why you want to do a pit stop on a virtual safety car is if there's a virtual safety car, you go in, you do a quick stop, you come out, and people haven't pushed that big of a gap away from you. You would have probably come out in last position, but if there's another safety car immediately after, then we're going to be able to leapfrog. But it looks like there's a lot more crashes happening now as compared to, last season or the last patch. So we have 16 seconds left, 14, 10, 8. Let's just pause it right there. Go back into medium mode, high mode for Leclerc. Where is Bottas in relation to him? He's on his tail. Let's go to super overtake mode just for a little bit, just to kick off that gap. And we're under no threat, so Schumacher can stay in that medium neutral mode. That's fine for him. But yeah, Bottas has been really aggressive, which isn't surprising because he wants to impress, his sponsors out there. And look at that, under braking, it looks like that Williams might be a little bit of a better car. One thing that we do have to keep a bit of an eye out for is the reliability of the components. 32 laps around here is no easy feat. It is a long endurance race. We're starting to really use up a lot more fuel. How is Bottas going? He's still in that high mode, so we're going to go back into high mode. If we do concede the position of Bottas, so be it. I'm happy to do it. I don't like the current race pace that we're currently sitting in. I kind of feel like it's going to choke the car by the end. And Leclerc just posts his personal second best sector. How is Bottas going in relation to that? He is going a little bit fast. Let's have a look at this last lap time. 122 on 123. So we're keeping up with the leaders, Rosberg and Habsburg. I'm used to saying Rosberg and Hamilton, but that's going to be a bit of not such an easy one to do. And it looks like Schumacher's under a little bit of pace, under a little bit of threat. So it looks like a lot of the drivers love to push early on in this race, and I might start to get to push Schumacher. I don't want to concede 12th or anything below that. And Nasser's actually coming in the pits. He's actually coming in really early, which is surprising. Polo's now crashed, no overtaking. In the second sector, is there going to be a safety car? So another car has crashed. Everyone is crashing. I think that's because everyone is pushing. No safety car. No reason to pit just yet. No overtaking the second sector, which might have saved Schumacher from being overtaken. So that's something we haven't seen where a yellow flag has just come out. So there's going to be no more threat from Nasser. So we're going to go back into neutral medium mode for Schumacher. And Schumacher's more about a race of attrition here rather than racing ahead of everyone else, because his components have less reliability. But the main thing that we want to keep an eye on is just the simple fact he's now defending another position. Leclerc again posting the second best sector. So our car really loves that second best sector. That car has just gone in the pits. Who was that? Habsburg has just pitted. Habsburg has just gone in the pits. So is Bottas. We have a considerable amount of tyre tread to go, so we're going to keep going around. Schumacher is in 9th. Giovinazzi has now crashed. Is that going to bring out now? It's another virtual safety car. Another car has crashed. So we've now got 4 cars crashed so far. Should we pit? We don't, because we're not going to be coming across the pit lane, it's not worth pitting, but we're going to go back into low mode for all our components just for a little bit. And as soon as that 10 seconds is up, that's how crazy this race has been. 4 cars have now crashed, and Massa's going to come out ahead of them. He's virtually a lap down. He must have had to fix some component or some issue. It's brought him all the way back down, so go back into high mode just to kick off the restart. Is Schumacher ahead of the other cars? Is he in front of the Habsburgs? Yes. Yes, so he's in front of the original leaders, and Habsburg must have had a really bad stop because he's actually come out behind Bottas. So if Schumacher holds up the rest of the field, that's going to be good news for us because we're going to go back him into medium mode because there's no point bursting out that amount of fuel. Same with Schumacher. If they can catch up to Schumacher before Leclerc pits and holds the rest of the field up, so we'll go back into conserve mode just for a little bit. That's going to work out for us. We're actually catching Ricciardo by the looks of things. He's starting to really wear and tear into his tyres. We've still got 31% tyre tread. And remember, in the pre-season, we developed our car to have really good tyre tread. So the whole thing here I want to do right now is actually push back into Bottas and Habsburg with Schumacher, hold up those guys, and then produce a little bit of a gap for Leclerc, who's starting to set out some good times out there. So he's now coming in. He's actually catching the race leader. He's down to 3 seconds of a gap, so that's a really good job by him. We're going to have to pit very shortly, if not the next lap. So what we'll do is we'll get him to go into complete attack mode and go into high mode to try and leapfrog as many cars as he possibly can. As for Schumacher, I'm hoping that these other cars can catch up. I don't think they are going to. Let's go back into low mode and try to bunch up the rest of the pack. Now, I might be restricting Schumacher from doing that great of a time, but the reality is I'm trying to bulk up the rest of the field, and as soon as I get close, I'm then going to start to push. Well, they're starting to get closer and closer. Yep, they're holding up the rest of the field. So as for Leclerc, we're going to have to pit him. We're going to go out on... Well, we could go to the medium tyres, but that's too much of a risk in my opinion. So let's come out on the soft compounds, get 15 laps out of them, and then finish on the super softs. I think that might be a lot better. Or we can go to one of these other sets of tyres to finish. If we go to medium, we wouldn't be able to finish. It'd be like pushing it. So let's go to the... Let's go to softs. Let's go to softs. Let's do that. And save a soft pair for the end of the race. Safety car might bunch up the field, and that's what we want to see. But Leclerc is pushing. He's pushing like a madman at the moment for coming into the pits. Will this work? And is Schumacher going to come on and throw it? The minute someone goes to pass him, look at that. Now, I'm going to go back into high mode and go back into push mode. And that's going to stop Hulkenberg from passing, and that's going to hold up the other guys behind him. So that's why we're doing that. So far, Schumacher's been able to overcut everyone successfully. And the reason why he was able to do that, let's go back into overtake mode. Keep pushing. He's in the pits. Leclerc's stop. It's going to be a fast stop for him, hopefully. Oh, there's been a mistake with a tyre problem. It's going to cost us how much longer? 5 seconds. 6 seconds. 7 seconds. Virtually 7 seconds there was penalised on Leclerc. He's actually going to come out behind this battle pack. But he's been successfully been able to hold up those guys for a little bit longer. So Leclerc is coming out into 11th position. So we've lost so much time out on the circuit. That's not even funny. As for Schumacher, he's doing an amazing job holding up all these other guys. So where is Leclerc in regards to Ricciardo? Remember the gap was 3 seconds. It's now 6 seconds. It's now like 10 seconds. That was such a slow stop. A mistaken pit lane might have cost us there. We're going to go back into neutral mode, medium mode for the rest of the race until we find a more optimum time to push. Going to be keeping a close eye out for safety cars. If a safety car came out now, it'd be perfect for Schumacher because he could come out on a more on the medium tyres and potentially finish this race without pitting yet again in track position. So the overcut worked, and the reason why the overcut worked in comparison to last season is we have more safety cars, more virtual safety cars. So the actual pack has been, you know, packed up against one another. where it usually hasn't been the case. So Leclerc is now in 10th position. He's on the tail of Rosberg, so we haven't lost that much time out to the leaders. If there is a safety car, like an actual safety car, it's going to bulk everyone back up our way. And Leclerc's trying to overtake Nico. He's actually trying to overtake the rest and Nico. So we've got a bit of a park condition here for our good mate Schumacher, which is a shame. It's going to be suspension. So we're going to go back into the neutral mode, sorry, into a more conserve mode, save a little bit of fuel, back up this pack as much as he possibly can. I have no reason to pit just yet. I want to try to live out the life of that component by going in conserve mode and thereby holding up these other drivers. Go into overtake mode with the engine because that's only going to affect the engine and the gearbox, which is fine. But the actual aggressive driving style in the conserve mode will actually save the component from going down faster. Now, it could break any second, and that would be a big shame, but he's doing the job for us. Look at that. He's holding up the rest of the field where he needs to be, and we're going to have to make a pit stop for Schumacher, fix another component, lose a little bit of time, but he should be able to come out medium tyres and finish the rest of the race. Now, where are we in relation to Rosberg? Rosberg just passed the rester, and now we're going to try to pass the rest ourselves. So go back into high mode. As soon as we get by the rest, we're going to pull back down, so we're going to have to keep an eye out for 9th position here. So we're doing a great job holding up the rest of the field. Our lap times are 124s. Perez has been the biggest victor of all this. He's been able to push away quite successfully. Charles Leclerc is attempting to overtake. Can he get the job done? No, he hasn't been able to get the job done just yet. Very difficult to overtake. You know, it's very easy to catch, but overtaking is another thing. It's another, you know, little bit of a trait. So we're going to go back into overtake mode just to keep the Hulkenberg behind us. Perez might even be able to win this race if he's able to keep out ahead. And that's worked really well. So the new strategy might be... Wow, he still hasn't gotten by him. So that's pretty... Let's go back into push mode. Let's go back into push mode. Push as much as we possibly can. Go back into medium mode for Schumacher. We're just wheeling and dealing the different setups here. And doing a good strategy for both of our cars. Leclerc just hasn't gotten by. I might just get him to go into attack mode just to get by him. Might be at the risk of a bit of tyre tread, but that's fine because we've got excess tyre tread on the softer compounds. And we're still holding up this battle pack. 15% for his suspension. Habsburg, Ricciardo, Bottas still hasn't gotten by, and we've got the, it's almost like a Trulli train, but it's like a Schumacher train. And he holds up the pack yet again, and we're doing 124 still while Perez is doing 122s. Leclerc is still doing 124s while he's behind the rest, but he's finally gotten by, so that's he's been able to make the job done. So Schumacher still has a significant amount of tyre tread left on those tyres. He's got 28%. So we're getting to the area where we need to pit. Oh, that's not good. That's not good. Park condition. We need to pit him. It's just gone down to 0%. That's not good. So front wing, rear wing, we might do brakes. We might fix everything. Why not? What tyre tread can we go out on? We're going to have to go to the soft compounds just to finish the race. We might have to go to medium compounds. As a matter of fact, we might just do that, yeah? If we go to softs, he can technically finish, but it would be on bare bones, and I don't like to finish on bare bones. So this is going to cost 31 seconds of a pit stop, but he's done the job for us. If he can just keep going around, no, it's pretty much stuffed him up. He should be able to pit. So let's allow team orders, allow teammate through. That might have cost him his race. But you know what? Schumacher did the job for us. He was able to hold up the rest of the pack for a much longer time. And now we're behind Ericsson, who's in the Sauber. Sauber's doing an amazing job staying in 8th position after last season coming, you know, in the second last of the teams. But we want Leclerc to go through as soon as he possibly can. We're just outside our sponsorship objective. But I want to get by... Ericsson as soon as we possibly can. Ericsson's just driving on that middle inside of the line. Get him to go into super overtake mode just for a little bit. I don't think it's going to work, is it? No, it's not. So, there he goes. Goes in the pit. Now, we want to do some really good lap times. We want to go back and we want to hold in that attack mode. Catch up to the back of this battle pack. Perez seems to be the guy to beat. He's got that much of a gap over Ricciardo. Ricciardo's going to have to pit again. We're going to have to pit again indefinitely. We're going to have to pit again for softs. Schumacher's been able to come around and just pit. Unfortunately, he had to do a complete circuit in order to do his stop. He's in 12th position, so his race isn't over just yet. Main thing is we get him to go into push and overtake mode straight from the beginning. The car isn't smoking anymore. He's on the medium set of compounds, and Nasser's just behind him. In a couple of crashes, he could score another point for the team. Tyre tread is starting to bleed a little bit here, so we're going to go back into neutral mode. We want to be able to make sure we get to about lap 23 before these tyres start to fall off, so we can finish on the soft set of compounds. I don't think that many more cars are going to start crashing, but Schumacher, remember, the car is now 100% reliable. Well, it's been, pushed up to where it possibly can be. But we're now trying to push away from who's he getting lapped by? Is it Ricciardo? Yep. So we're going to try to push away from him as much as we possibly can. And if a safety car did come out another crash, it would help us dramatically. But Verstappen, the rest is now pitting. So there's a potential that we could possibly get back into the top 10 for Schumacher. That strategy isn't just over yet. Watch this space. Anything can happen. We've now got a much slower Palmer heading up behind us. Whereas Schumacher, is he being lapped just yet? No. I want to make sure we're pushing away from Ricciardo as much as we possibly can, because I don't want to get held up by blue flag after blue flag after blue flag. We're now in 12th position. So we're still competing for a top 10 spot. Van Dorn is a little bit ahead. Verstappen, they're not catchable, only through a mechanical issue would they be catchable. Leclerc's now up to 5th position. He's on the tail of Rosberg. And Ricciardo, remember, if we were only 3 seconds behind Ricciardo from that last stop, that would have put us in 2nd position. So we would have been competing for a top position there. Schumacher sets the fastest sector for Sector 2. So Schumacher's the fastest car out in the circuit right now. I want to make sure those park conditions are fine. Yes, they are. He should be able to finish quite well. So Schumacher's the fastest car out in the circuit at the moment, and that's what we want to see. A lazy pit stop from another team might be able to push him back in, and that's what we're going to have to do here for Leclerc. So Leclerc's car, we're going to actually start to push. It looks like we're starting to get a little bit rickety in certain other aspects of the car. But the fuel is starting to come back to us. We might go to high mode just to push up as much as we possibly can on Ricciardo. And we want to push to at least about lap 25 pit. If we have to fix anything, we will. But it's no longer a race of attrition for us. It's a race for track position. Schumacher is going from strength to strength. He's now set the fastest first sector. And he's still got the fastest second sector. So I'm surprised he's been able to do that on the medium set of compounds, to be honest. But there might not be that much of a difference between the two once you're starting to push. And he goes through. Does he set the fastest lap? No, he doesn't. So the car's starting to fade a little bit now from where it was. How much further is he behind? He's 11 seconds behind the rest of the field. But like I said, if a pit stop happens, which it will, he'll be able to catch right back up. So I might just get him to go back into medium mode, conserve fuel. He's down by 0.8 of a fuel load at the moment. We are going to get lapped. As soon as it looks like we are going to get lapped again, I'm going to start to push him. That's because Ricciardo is going to have to pit. Actually, you know what? Keep pushing, because the longer you can stay up in front of Ricciardo, who has to pit, it's going to be better for us. And we're at a position, Leclerc is now posting his fastest first sector. We're now at a sweet spot where we can start to consider pitting for these soft tyres. I might just go one more lap. Just one more lap on these 27% soft compounds, and then we'll go to super softs. Race leader, there's that much of a gap from first to 12th that we're not going to get lapped. And the whole thing is, if he catches up to us, we get blue flag, we lose about 5 seconds. 5 seconds could be the difference between coming, 11th and 10th once everyone starts to pit yet again. Verstappen's going to have to pit. We don't have to pit for Schumacher. As long as those park conditions are fine, which they are. And remember, if we had pitted one lap earlier, it might have been super beneficial for Schumacher. But yeah, those things happen, guys. Charles Leclerc just posted personal best, a 1:21. So he's almost trading lap times with the race leader. He's a little bit faster than Rosberg, a little bit faster than Habsburg. We are going to be coming in now for our next stop. Soft compounds it is, balanced stop. So we want to fix anything. Brakes looks a little bit sketchy. 6.5 seconds. Now I'm willing to fix the brakes, but I don't want to fix the suspension. I think the brakes are a lot more crucial here. In fact, you know what? We might do both. We might just do both. Play it safe. Balance pit stop. That's my new call. We're going to do it safe. We've only got, 9 laps to go. But if anything, there we go. What's the park condition? It's suspension. So we are fixing suspension. Alonso has just retired from the race in 8th position. That's going to bump up Schumacher into 11th. So that's a good spot for us. And, yeah, we might just go back into neutral mode for Schumacher. Nothing to really... to really push on. Leclerc's now coming in. We're repairing 2 components. Brakes and also suspension back into the green. In comes Alonso. He's completely retired out of the race. That's going to put us back into the points, at least for Leclerc. Now, I can leave him on high, and I can push. It's a good stop. 7th position. Hulkenberg and Perez. Remember, Perez had that massive advantage when Schumacher was holding up the rest of the field. So he might be difficult to catch. Hulkenberg's got a mechanical issue. A lot of people have mechanical issues now at this point of the race. So that's good news for us. Schumacher's into 10th, so he's leapfrogged Habsburg, who's had to pit. Can he stay out in front of Habsburg? I don't think so. I think Habsburg's going to be, chomping away at his lap times and potentially able to catch him and then, leapfrog him. He's gone for the other soft compounds of tyres, so he's going to be pushing as much as he possibly can be. But, Verstappen's going to have to pit. So is Van Dorn. That will mean that Schumacher will be able to leapfrog back into the top 8. So, again, although we did a much slower lap, holding up the rest of the field has been beneficial to everyone. Leclerc goes up into 6th position. We're going to have to keep a close eye on what everyone's doing in their strategies. And making sure these park conditions are fine. Ricciardo just sets a personal second best sector. Who's that? Is that Bottas? Just let Bottas go. We're not going to be able to compete with Bottas with Schumacher's car on the medium tyres. We've got 0.46 laps of fuel. I might just go back into medium mode for both of our drivers at the moment. Remember, the less laps of fuel on board the car, the faster they naturally go as well. He now sets a 119. A 119. He's the fastest car out there, I believe. A 119. He's definitely the fastest car out there. So Leclerc is starting to really push and put a lot of pressure on the cars ahead of him. We're catching Hulkenberg. We are catching Perez, who have mechanical issues. They won't have to pit again. They're going to try to push out their cars. But what you might find is they might have to pit shortly and get caught out. Rosberg's now in the pits. He's come out just ahead of us. But he's on much softer, much better conditioned tyres. We're going to keep going around, and I think we're going to have to relinquish this position to Habsburg. I'm not in the area to keep pushing. Well, we might just push for a little bit. We might just leave him in a push mode just to see if he can hold that position as much as he possibly can without risking the car. Remember, 10th is still in the points. 10th would be a great result from us. We need to get 7th or above for our sponsor and our chairman's happiness. Well, 5th or above for our chairman's happiness. So Leclerc, we still have one spot to make. He's now in the green zone. Wow, look at that front wing and rear wing starting to look a little bit troubling, but we are continually pushing. Rosberg now sets a faster second sector, so I'm glad that he wasn't behind us. I'm glad that we weren't competing for a position. He did a 117 versus our 119 earlier. But Hulkenberg and Perez still out there, haven't had many issues. Had we not have had that, that drama with the tyre change, you'd imagine we'd still be up there in second position, following up to Ricciardo, putting a lot of pressure on him. But how are we going? A lot of the guys are now, look at that, Ricciardo's starting to push back. He's getting cars outlapped because, he has to start to push back a lot more. Where is Schumacher in relation? Yeah, he's under no threat whatsoever. So that's good for him. Leclerc's car is now in a positive fuel mode, so we could probably start to push a little bit here. Is that 6th position? Who is that? That's Vettel. Vettel's now in our tail. Charles Leclerc then again posts another personal best time of 119. What's that? Schumacher. Front wing suspension again, so let's go back into conserve mode for him. We're not going to risk it for the biscuit. There's no need to do that. Where is 10th position? He's all the way back there. So let's go all the way back into backup mode and just make sure that we finish. 9th position is a steady spot for him. Leclerc, still doing personal best times lap after lap. Let's go into attack mode and let's leave it into high mode and not concede this position to Vettel. I don't want to lose another spot to Vettel. I want to make sure that we get this 5th spot. We're still trailing behind the likes of a Perez and Hulkenberg. They're not too far ahead of us. In fact, they're in our B-line at the moment, both cars. Look at those paint jobs, the green and orange. I really like those paint jobs. But at the moment, we're trying to trail up behind them. We've got Vettel who's starting to threaten us just a little bit. We've got 28% tyre tread left, so let's go back into push mode. And are we able to get these last positions over the line? Where is Schumacher in relation to 10th? Yeah, he's fine. Ricciardo might even lap 10th position, so that would be work wonders for us. But all eyes and focus is now on Leclerc, battling Perez and also Alonso. If he can just get by him, we have to monitor that fuel as well. He's on the negative grid at the moment. I want him to be able to just leapfrog him. He's holding us all up. I've found it's much harder this new patch to overtake as well. And we're on 23% tyre tread versus, he's got more tyre tread there, but that's Vettel. Vettel goes around the outside, so he's been able to pass us. Let's try to make sure that we get by Perez at the end here somehow. And that's because Vettel was on push mode completely. That's very unfortunate. Let's go back there into medium mode. We are going to lose a little bit of fuel out in the end. You know what? Let's go into super overtake mode just for the last bit. So we get suckered in there. We get behind Perez. Our pit stop strategy, we were just out of enough tread at the end. We didn't have enough to overtake Perez, which is really unfortunate. Schumacher should get that 9th position. Yes, he is. He's going to be able to finish. And it's very unfortunate because look at all the front runners. Ricciardo, mechanical issue. Rosberg didn't have a mechanical issue. Hulkenberg, mechanical issue. Vettel, no. Perez, he did. So, you know, a couple of things, if they went our way, we'd be able to leapfrog a couple of cars and then get back on that podium. Again, we're in a much more competitive car this season. That's great for us. We're not up against Hamilton this championship, which is a huge surprise. I'm hoping that we don't get caught for an illegal component, considering that we've got 6th and 9th. Where would that basically put us? Would that be enough to put us as one of the top 5 teams? Yes, it would be. Because there's only 1, 2, 3, and 4 teams ahead of us. So that would put us exactly 5th, which is great news. Let's have a look. Risk or rule break GMA. Did they pick up anything? No. That's good news for us. We are probably the luckiest people to ever play Motorsport Manager. And I'm glad that we picked our sponsorship objective as 7th or above because we just hit that. A lot of retirements, a lot of crashes. Luckily, it wasn't us this time. Schumacher does get his points. Our just desserts, guys. I'm stoked after that. This championship is very alive after round 2. So that's very good news for us. Let's have a look at our chairman happiness. Is he going to be grumple bums? Is he going to be really annoyed? I don't know. Alonso. D'Alfonso, race engineering owner, CEO, the big dog. He's happy. 74% happiness. Markability, I think, goes down a little bit. No, it stays at 66%. Morale goes up 23% for finishing inside the points. So that's good news for us. Charles Leclerc doing a great job. And we might be able to get a reserve driver just after this break. Where else are we? Everything else seems to be improving. Cornering has just gone up to 16, which is good. Is there anything else? Braking is going to go up to 16 very shortly. As for overtaking for Schumacher as well. And we've got 15 in overtaking, which is pretty good. Could be a little bit better. 1.8 mil. That's a good payday for us. It's almost putting us back into the green, which is what we wanted to see. So I'm very delighted with that, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching the video. We have a lot of mail. Is there anything I can do? Let's do an interview. Why not? Mick Schumacher has claimed that his suspension seems to be holding back the team, and technical commentators seem to agree. Is it true? Our suspension is awful. I need to work on it improving. He needs to button it. We need more investment into our HQ. Really, that's the heart of our problem. Look, the suspension is pretty awful, but we are working on it. Team markability goes down by 10%. No, really? Come on, guys. That's going to hurt us. Is there any... Yeah, there's one sponsorship offer. That's hurt the team a little bit. Could be worse. Could be better. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Been Spot the Aussie. Hope you're enjoying it. Let me know in the comment section below. What are you guys thinking? What should be my next move? Should we be fixing anything? We're going to be racing at Beijing. We've got quite a bit of a gap, so we should be able to improve the car a little bit, by a little bit more. Thanks for tuning in. I'll check you guys out shortly. Shh.